Thursday Night Football is upon us, and even though this game has a somewhat low total today, I do think it looks like a fun one on paper. And of course, we're going to do what we always do here. We're going to look at the projections and the ownership projections on Stochastic. We're going to hop over to the solver, optimize some lineups, and see what the pure math is going to drive people to when they build lineups today. We're going to check out the sims as well, either on the solver and Stochastic, maybe both. We'll see how it goes. And of course, at the end of this video, I'm going to give you guys 3 takeaways after I build my own lineup here on stream. Simming out. Let's see what we do. Of course, let's get into it. Today, the totals in this one, we got 21 implied points for Tampa Bay, 22.5 for Atlanta. Total came down about a half point between yesterday and today, so that's what we're looking at right now. The matchup to me looks like a good one for Tampa Bay overall. Pass defense for Atlanta has not been good on the year. 73.4% completion rate allowed by the Falcons so far. 0.05 EPA per dropback, 0.05 EPA per pass, 0.07 EPA per rush. It's a little bit better in the red zone with a negative 0.01 EPA per red zone rush and a negative 0.08 EPA per red zone pass allowed. But overall, looks like a weak defense for Atlanta. So it's the number one thing I'm expecting today. On the Bucs side, the defense a little bit better, but still basically league average. Negative 0.03 EPA per dropback allowed by the Bucs D. Negative 0.04 EPA per pass allowed. Lower 65% completion rate, but a 0.14 EPA per rush is currently one of the worst marks in the league. So Bijan Robinson as chalk. You can question the workload after last week got ramped down pretty heavily. Was supposedly banged up, but Tyler Algier took a lot of work. It's a situation here where I think there should be production that is able to go off on both sides. Pace of play could be a little bit low, though. Falcons on the year, only 53.8 plays per game, which is one of the lower marks in the league. The Bucs side, 59.5 plays per game, so a little bit more than average for them, but still basically in the dead minimum or dead middle of the league right now. Shout out to the chat. Appreciate you guys being here. Of course, no stream yesterday or Tuesday. I haven't been doing one on Wednesday because I do my data prep and all that. Tuesday, I just felt sick and was like, I don't need to do the best ball video for you guys when I'm sick, and it's just like a navel gazing video. But I am at 16% advance rate right now in BBM for those who care. BBMDB if you want to look it up. Circle Spags runs pure. I hope so. They're not in terms of being run pure. I don't want to support those guys. We're team Stochastic here. Maybe team Solver. Maybe team Unabated one day soon. We'll see. Got showdown projections here from Stochastic. Top projected player on the slate right now is Bijan Robinson. As I mentioned, that workload last week, a little bit of a concern point for him. Bijan played. I was looking this up before the show. Not Bijan. Bijan. Bijan played 36 snaps last week, which is down from 50, 46, 50 the first 3 weeks of the year. Algier played 21 snaps last week, up from 10, 13, 13. So not a lot of work going Algier's way, but enough it's going to carve away from it. I just said, Adam, I'm not doing it this week. Again, I don't need to do the videos that aren't really about slates quite as much. But the basketball one, honestly, not a lot of people watch it. I do it for you guys because you care, but it's not happening this week. Also, Sunday video not happening this week either because I'm going to be at a wedding. So tomorrow is going to be your main slate preview for me. And that's it for the week. Baker Mayfield, number 2 projected player, 16.7 fantasy points for him. So pretty big gap between him and Bijan. It looks pretty okay there. Kirk Cousins, 15.7% for him. Going to be less owned than Baker if I had to guess, though the salary, it's not a big difference in value between these two guys. So I don't know when Optimizer is going to favor either of them too much. I think they both might make it in the lineups. Surprisingly, the receivers is lowly projected, especially Goddard, who's my guy in the thumbnail, has been good pretty much every week so far. But Chris Godwin, a 15.4 point projection. Drake London, 15.3 points. Those are your top 5 projected guys. And Mike Evans, not too far behind. If I were to say that anybody gets kind of forgotten on the slate, I would guess it's Mike Evans with a 10-2 salary. He hasn't played as well as Chris Godwin. He's been shut down in some games. The matchup should benefit him, though, going against the Falcons here. Falcons give up the most of the production out wide so far, which, of course, is where Mike Evans runs. 0.42 EPA allowed out wide compared to a negative 0.04 EPA out of the slot. Higher target rate going to slot, which is going to be the case for pretty much any team. But I think Godwin's credible, but I do think Evans' as captain looks a little bit better. Top values right now, according to Stochastic, again, this is as of 11:04 a.m. on the East Coast. Ray McLeod looks like a top value. He's been getting a ton of work. Basically, week 1, they ran a lot of 12 personnel out there. After that, it became just 3 receivers with 11 personnel. So Ray McLeod sees the field enough, a good player. Jalen McMillan going to be out today, so Stochastic needs to update for that. They did not update for that 34 minutes ago. McMillan out, Palmer out. So Sterling Shepard likely gets some of this projection going his way. His price tag, $1,600 salary. Yeah, Sterling Shepard probably in play with like a 4-point projection, if I had to guess, absorbing what McMillan leaves behind and maybe what Palmer leaves behind. Yeah, they do have Palmer in this lineup as well. We got K. Dotton, number 3 value overall, the 7.5 projection. Bijan, number 4, with the 1.8x value for him. Again, that 18.08 projection for him. And Kirk Cousins, another top value here. So really not any of the $200 guys, none of the cheapies. This is a slate where if you did like one of the $200 guys, a Cameron Johnson with a K, who's not a player I was actually considering on the slate. But if you did like one of these $200 guys, you could go there. I don't know who it would be. They are all projected for 0.1. Cameron Johnson's best at 0.29. So not looking on paper like a slate to pay a $200 guy or to play a $200 guy, a $400 guy. Maybe Charlie Werner. It's not looking good, though, for the very, very cheapies here. Let's go to the ownership projections. Again, 15% off at Stochastic. Use the link in the description if you can. It supports the show directly, which I do appreciate, as we are trying to find a way to make enough money off of this to make it viable for me to do it more. And same thing for NBA guys. So keep your eyes peeled. But I'm working on stuff. I'm trying things on the back end. See if I can handle being OCD about 2 sports at once. We'll find out in the next few weeks. Bijan Robinson, top projected owned player by Stochastic, 62% overall, 16% at captain. So right away, it seems like this would be projecting more of a Falcons dominant build. To me, with Bijan Robinson, I get him as a play. I think he's been overprojected this entire year. The workload's not as good as many of the other alpha backs out there. Only 1.8 intended red zone touches a game, 0.8 inside the 10-yard line a game. It's not as good as a lot of the guys who Bijan gets treated as one-to-one with. Your Saquons, your Derrick Henrys even. Like these guys who've been good all year as fulcrums, as kind of the focal points of offenses. That's not Bijan right now. Bijan's getting good work. It's not great work. So 17.8 intended touches a game. He's doing fine with it. 20% avoided tackle rate. Negative 0.13 EPA per rush is not great. Only 4 targets a game. My main point here would be like Bijan, good play. Always never going to critique Bijan, but I don't think he's like this chalk landslide kind of play, especially given how good the pass game looks to me on both sides of the equation. So I'd warn right away against Captain Bijan. He can certainly hit. I'm sure he's going to come up a lot in the Sims, but I think I would say it's trappy. It's just projecting this guy for something that he's not doing reliably every week. UGA blocking tight end legend Charlie Werner. Okay, well, glad to know that. He's playing for the right team, I guess. He's coming back home to recapture some of that glory. Baker Mayfield, 59% ownership for him overall, 8% at captain. I do think Baker at captain would be appealing. That's a little bit lofty for him, but I think Baker with Mike Evans, with Chris Godwin, is how you try to capture that upside. Baker also running 3 times a game and looking pretty good with it. Last year, he's running, I think, like 5.5 times a game. He runs a little bit more than it might seem. He's gotten some touchdowns on the year, like at least 1 rushing touchdown, might be 2 off the top of my head. Only 2.7 deep throws a game. 3 rushes, 1 red zone rush for Baker Mayfield. He's an okay captain. At 8%, it's a little bit high for a guy who's not like getting a crush of usage downfield and in the run game at QB. Kirk Cousins also going to be pretty decently owned at QB at 7%. If I had to guess, probably a little bit lower for him, but 56% overall. Drake London, 50%, 15% at captain, and Chris Godwin, 48%, 12% at captain. Mike Evans at 40% overall, 9% at captain, I think would be the most appealing option here for me. Just think it's a pay up to get contrarian kind of spot for him. The box score results have not been as good as Chris Godwin. He's also getting less work than Chris Godwin, only a 25% target per route run compared to 29%. But, 10.4 air yards per target compared to 6 flat for Chris Godwin. You don't have McMillan out there. I think it all should benefit Mike Evans a little bit more. But that's really my take on the slate. Rachaad White, he's getting more work than Bucky Irving. I think with all the steam around Bucky Irving, Rachaad White probably comes in a little bit under-owned. He was banged up last week. The snap count for him got about as low as it's been, while Bucky's got about as high as it's been. But I think Rachaad White at captain, you're capturing one kind of game flow, which is Tampa Bay dominant. So I don't think Rachaad White a bad captain either. Lower owned guys here, Darnell Mooney getting enough usage at 5% captain. I'll highlight that real fast. Bucky, hard for me to imagine him getting there at captain, though he would be low owned. Would be another way to get unique, but a $400 price difference between him and Rachaad White. Look, I love Bucky. You guys know that if you watch the best ball streams, he's one of my highest exposed players on the year. Happy to see him getting the workload coming up. I think he's like a little overpriced and a little frothy right now because people didn't get enough of them in basketball season and redraft, whatever they're doing. Now they want to get there, and I worry that this slate, he ends up being a little bit too highly owned for what his role is. If that's the case, Rachaad White would be a better play. People love Rachaad White too, so I'm not entirely sure how that one's going to go. We'll look at the Sims, and I think if they have like a preference there, if the optimizer and the Sims have a preference, that tells us more where the field will be. But it really could go either way, where Bucky ends up like 35%, Rachaad White ends up 33%. Wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world to me because people are down on Rachaad White lately, but that preseason love for Rachaad White might carry over a little bit more in a Thursday Night Football Island game where you get kind of a little more casual ownership coming in, I think. Players overall, wow, so nobody's owned under 10% besides like the dog shit guys. Charlie Werner, Sterling Shepard, Trey Palmer is not going to play. Payne Durham, who I think will be active but doesn't do much. Cameron Johnson, Kaderil Hodge. All these guys are going to be under 10% owned. I feel like the most viable of them would be Werner, and he's been quietly taking a good amount of snaps away from Kyle Pitts. He's not like a target hound. He's getting 17 snaps in week 4. Before that, 23, 16, 19. Tell you what, if you're going to go to a captain and nobody's going to play, probably Kyle Pitts. Snap count coming down for him was down to 38 last week after 54, 45, 42 for him the previous 3 games. But yeah, really nothing here that's that fun. Like Werner's not going to get targeted enough to be good. These under 10% guys aren't that good. So it's going to be more about your overall construction to get unique, I think. There isn't one player who's like a panacea for getting unique on the slate. All right. Showdown. Let's do it. Wouldn't personally take Warner. I think he has like 6 catches in his career, 5 catches in his career. I mean, it's just the routes. He's getting enough snaps, enough routes out there. But I agree he's not a play for a showdown. Like he's more of a play just because like who else are you going to play? It's going to be low owned. All right, let's look at the simulator or the optimizer here. What we're going to do is optimize 25 lines with the solver. Let me change the sticker here. Check out the solver, link in the description for this. Basically, what you can do with the solver is optimizing similar to Fantasy Cruncher historically. You could also kind of optimize lineups and then sim them out, which is what I like to do for main slates in particular. But here, your top optimal lineup right now, the highest projected one you should play in cash if you're playing a cash lineup at 11:15 on the East Coast. Ray McLeod at captain. So that's shocking to see. Bijan Robinson, Baker Mayfield, Drake London, Kirk Cousins, Rachaad White. That's your optimal right now. You are getting a lot of Ray at captain. So basically, it looks like the lineups are giving you more cheap captain to cram in every player who's got a decent projection on them. See what the team splits are. You're getting a mix of captains, but that was a lot of Ray up top. I like Ray McLeod, but if he's going to be a chalk captain option, that's one you probably shouldn't go to too much. Got enough of a ceiling, though, theoretically. So overall in these lineups, nobody in 100%, but Ray McLeod's in 96, Bijan in 96, Cousins in 92, Drake London in 88. So we are getting Falcons dominant builds for sure. Stack construction, we are getting the most 52% 4-2 Falcons, 28% 5-1 Falcons, and only 20% 3-3 Falcons. So Bucs dominant build, Bucs 4-2. I think immediately when you see these kind of this ownership pushing this way, gets more appealing. I would say also, I mean, you are getting Falcons onslaughts here, but Bucs onslaughts I think get more appealing. Playing the Bucs side of the equation is going to be going against the projections and what the math pushes people towards. So right away, it's the first thing you would see here. I don't think we have a sim. Yeah, we don't have a sim for this one. So let's go over to Stochastic and let's do their sims here. Of course, Stochastic, the difference between them. So basically, ETR builds their own set of lineups for you guys to sim against out there. Stochastic automatically generates 10,000 lineups that are meant to represent what the ownership of the slate looks like, and then they have them compete 10,000 times. So the difference between the two here. Let's check out what Stochastic has in the sims. Of course, the solver, great tool as well. Link in the description for that. Stochastic, link in the description for that as well. You'd have to think Evans or Godwin will be in the optimal. I mean, neither was. So, I mean, the optimal projected lineup right now, neither was. But I would think so, yes. But if everybody thinks that, then you're probably going to do better not playing that. It's obviously the push-pull of any DFS slate. All right, so we got our lineups built. Let's sim them out. I presume it's 33% to first again. Oh, they actually upped the amounts that can go. This actually might be worth checking real fast because now basically Stochastic used to cap it at 30% to first, but now because so many tournaments have 33% or 40% to first, I guess they've changed that. I just want to see if I can get the price point for today's tournament. So it's 33% to first for today. So let's go 35% and let's sim this out. We'll see what we get here. Falcons seem to stay overrated even in the sims. I think it's because they have fairly concentrated target charts overall. I mean, you know who the RBs are going to get work for the most part, even though there is a split between Algier and Bijan. Receiver, it's going to be Drake London. I mean, Pitts is basically taking himself out of the equation. I would say the slate, you're going to get a lot of Falcons. It seems like you're not going to get Kyle Pitts. I know like people are not high on Kyle Pitts. I wasn't high on Kyle Pitts at any time this year. But I do think Kyle Pitts at a time where like everybody's talking shit about him, all the redraft players and people creating content around that are saying Kyle Pitts is just like a dead player. That's the week where sometimes it could work out. Matchup wise, now that I'm really seeing that would make me want to go to Kyle Pitts. They don't allow targets at tight end too often to Tampa Bay. 7% target rates at tight end, 46% to the slot where Pitts gets some targets. Pitts has also been pretty bad on the year. I feel like Kyle Pitts to me, I love Christian Watson, but I think it's kind of been the same thing this year as it was last year. Watson just hasn't been as efficient the last 2 years. I feel like Pitts is one of those guys too, where it's like, I want him to be something that he's not. Like he's just not that efficient anymore. When he was really good his rookie year, it's just kind of gotten worse for him. But I think just the game theory of him would make the most sense. We'll look at the overall exposures, but top ROI lineups right now. His usage is dumb, but he's still out there for almost 40 snaps a game. Like I get it. It's just, if everybody thinks the bad side of the equation, we talk about this a lot where obviously I believe the most in like the data I look at and trying to find an advantage. But ultimately, like if I see like this match and I'm like, oh man, this is a smash spot for an RB, but then the RB is going to be played out the ass. Like you kind of throw the stats out the window, you throw everything out the window because everybody's going to be playing that guy anyway. And that's what it is with Kyle Pitts, but the inverse where nobody's going to play Kyle Pitts. So yeah, you can look at Kyle Pitts and go, well, he sucks. He's not getting great targets. He has 16% target per out run, 0.5 red zone targets a game, 0.3 inside the 10-yard line. Like you can point out the work and go, this isn't good. Or you could go, he's getting enough and nobody likes him, so you play him. I think that's mostly the game theory versus like what's actually a good play. And I think you have to tend to err on the side of game theory, especially for a showdown slate. Rachaad White is your top captain right now, according to ROI. Baker Mayfield, Bijan Robinson, Darnell Mooney, Kirk Cousins, Ray McLeod. So an Atlanta 4-2 here, coming in well represented. We are getting Tampa Bay dominant ones after that, though. A Sterling Shepard captain, which is kind of interesting. People will, I think, as STL Breed pointed out, I think people are going to go to Godwin. I think people are going to go to Evans. I think they're both great plays. If Shepard were to hit, it'd be a pretty narrow outcome, to be honest. What are his numbers on the year? Let's see if he's got underlying metrics that are maybe encouraging. Sterling. 15% target per out run, 2.5 targets a game, 1 deep target a game. He's been efficient with a 0.45 EPA. Yeah, look, I think Sterling Shepard, he's going to look like a better play when the projections update. But Shepard, to me, a captain feels a little bit thin, but if it were to hit, you're probably on an island. So I get the logic here. Shepard, Baker, Bijan, you're still getting Chris Godwin in, Kirk Cousins, Rachaad White. So basically, if Shepard does enough at captain to get there, you're less likely to see Mike Evans get enough production and touchdowns or yardage to get there. But Chris Godwin, I feel like for a PPR site, obviously we're playing Showdown on DraftKings. I think Godwin's going to be hard to fade in most lineups, and he's hard to fade in this one at least. For this one, it's a 5-1 Bucs dominant build. Rachaad White at captain. Getting Rachaad White, Baker Mayfield, Bijan as your 1 Falcon, Bucs D, Bucky Irving, and Mike Evans. White and Irving, I think, can hit. Hard for White and Irving to hit with one of them as captain. I think they're easier for both to hit if one's in the flex, but that probably makes the ownership a little bit higher. Number 4 ROI lineup is Chris Godwin at captain with Baker Mayfield, Bijan Robinson, Bucs D, Mike Evans, and Sterling Shepard again. So Bijan is your bring back. If you're playing a Bucs 5-1, I think going with Darnell Mooney, Drake London, Kyle Pitts is your bring back. It's going to look a little bit more appealing because it seems like Bijan is naturally floating his way in. It's all these 5-1 kind of builds. Another Chris Godwin captain is your 5th highest ROI lineup with Godwin, Mayfield, Bucs D, Falcons D, Mike Evans, Rachaad White. So this kind of build is interesting, and it does hit sometimes. I'm not sure this is a spot where I'd expect it to hit, but sometimes in some games where you play only the defense as the player from, in a 5-1 build. So here you're only playing the Falcons D in a Bucs dominant build. The bet you're basically making is that nobody on the Falcons side of the equation is going to score over 8 points, I guess, or at least, if they score over 8 points, they're doing it at too high of a salary. So these builds are kind of fun. Again, I don't know that that's this slate, but it'll be low owned because people will be playing kind of a little more offensively dominant build. So going both defense, I do see kind of the logic on that. Player ROIs right now. We'll look at some specific captains in a moment. Highest ROI guy right now would be Sterling Shepard, a captain. He's got a flat 0 ROI. Everybody else a negative ROI, but Ray McLeod, captain. Bijan, captain. Ray McLeod in the flex. Those look like your top ROI players relatively, but none of them a particularly great ROI play relative to the Sims. Overall exposures, you're getting the most Baker Mayfield in the flex, 67% of him in the flex. Sims want you to get 15% more than the expected ownership of 52% for the field. Bijan in the flex, you're getting 53% of the time. So this is interesting. You're not getting really dominant captain stuff here. You're getting more Rachaad White, 40% compared to 33%. Palmer, not active. Palmer and McMillan both going to be inactive. Yeah, this is not revealing too much to me. It seems like it's a slate where the Sims really just want you to play like the most binary, basic kind of plays, which I get, but that doesn't really give you a lot of helpful stuff, either for me as a content creator or for you guys to take away. Let's look at some other captain lineups, though, real fast. Filters, captain. Let's look at a Kyle Pitts captain. Does it hit very often? I don't think so, but the ownership's going to be low enough that I get taking the stab here. Pitts in an Atlanta 5-1 build. Pitts, Bijan, Chris Godwin, Drake London, Kirk Cousins, Ray McLeod, Pitts, Baker, Bijan, Chris Godwin, Kirk Cousins, Ray McLeod. I mean, you're cramming in a lot of good players, I guess, the positive of the slate, but it's not like a lot of unique stuff coming up top. Slate, I don't really want to play, unfortunately. Yeah, it's still a slate, though. So I think I'll certainly be playing it, but I get the logic. Mooney captain, I think would be kind of fun. Darnell Mooney, Bijan, Chris Godwin, Falcons D, Kirk Cousins, Younghoe Koo. Kickers, I think Cody Main posted. Kickers have made, I believe, 49% of the lineups that are primetime showdown slates so far. I think they're also like 38% owned, if I'm remembering correctly. Mooney builds. Anyway, these are Mooney builds here. Not like strong vibes to them. I think I'd rather get in a few more bucks. Otten captain? Sure. This is kind of slate where people just ask me for dog shit captains. We can look at it. Otten, Baker, Bijan, Drake London, Mike Evans, Algier. Otten, Baker, Bijan, Mike Evans, Rachaad White, Younghoe Koo. This one's leaving enough money on the table. I don't think you're sneaking up on anybody with Cade Otton lineups, and I especially don't think you're sneaking up on anybody with Cade Otton lineups where you're spending $50,000 on salary. But these are your Otton builds. This one's got 7 dupes on it. I don't know. Cade Otton to me feels like a pretty flimsy captain. What's Otton's workload on the year? Otton, 5.3 targets a game, 19.6% target per out run, 0.8 in the red zone, targets 0.5 inside the 10-yard line per game. It's okay. I don't know. I mean, look, anything can hit in a showdown. I don't want to poo-poo Otton too much, but I don't think that's really a good play. What else would we put out at captain? Bucky Irving captain? Don't think this is a good play, really, but which is, as much Rachaad White as we're getting, you have to take a look at Bucky Irving a little bit. Bucky at captain with Baker Mayfield, Bijan, Bucks D, Chris Godwin, Rachaad White. Bucky with Baker, Bijan, Cade Otton, Mike Evans, Rachaad White. I'm just not seeing I'm not seeing like a thing that's making these lines particularly interesting. It's like, this is the hard part for me. There's nothing that's standing out. Like, we didn't even have 100% owned guys. We usually have those. I'm trying to think who else would be a good captain. Drake London and captain. Drake London with Bijan, Bucks D, Chris Godwin, Falcons D, Kirk Cousins. Like, the issue I'm having, and usually this is a thing with, some of the top sim ROI lineups. Like, you get builds in here where there's a couple weird players. We're getting all players that are just regular rotational guys. And granted, we saw, again, like all the $200 guys, like there's nobody there who's really a viable play. But like normally for a showdown, you just want one guy who's off the beaten path. Like for Monday, it wasn't a showdown necessarily, though I'm sure he won in the showdown too. But like for the 2-gamer we had on Monday, like AJ Barner, somebody commented that. I'm like, that's pretty thin play, but anything could win on a slate. It's like, I get it. I played more Pharaoh Brown than AJ Barner. AJ Barner ends up winning all the tournaments basically. Like you kind of want an AJ Barner, and there doesn't seem to be an AJ Barner type that's coming up at all, which is not the most common thing in the world. I mean, these are your Drake London ones. We looked at Ray McCloud. I guess we can look at Ray on here. Ray McCloud with Baker, Bijan, Kirk Cousins, Mike Evans, Younghoe Koo. You get everybody in. Captain Koo. You think the Ray builds get owned a little bit more than they should because he's like a viable play and you can play anybody you want. So I think that would be something that would hit. Younghoe Koo, Baker Mayfield, Bijan, Drake London, Kirk Cousins, Algier. It's not a bad slate for 2 kickers, I think. Let me see how that looks real fast. Lineup contains Koo. Because like these teams could be efficient but not punch it in the end zone. And I think that would play for me. So here's your top ROI lineup with Koo and Chase McLaughlin. We got Drake London, Bijan, Chase McLaughlin, Kirk Cousins, Rashad White, Younghoe Koo. I think one where you get both kickers in lieu of the QBs would be the most appealing. So this one, 49-2, 3-3 build. It says no dupes, but I might have some dupes on it. Godwin, Bijan, Chase McLaughlin, Darnell Mooney, Rashad White, and Younghoe Koo. Old lady tripping, but my Younghoe Koo. I mean, if you say it the way that it's spelled, yes, your Younghoe Koo. That is a funny one. Bijan, a captain with Baker, Otten. Yeah, and I think this one with Godwin with no QBs. You play both kickers trying to outscore the QBs. We're assuming the QBs create enough production for these guys, but not so much that they're going to make a lineup. I think that works. I think this one would stand out. This one at 46-4, you're leaving a lot of money on the table with Drake London, Bijan, Chase McLaughlin, Falcons D, Kirk Cousins, and Younghoe Koo. Doesn't create quite as much a story as I think this one does with no QBs in both kickers. Let's look at Evans captain, and we'll close it out here with a hand build. Captain contains Evans. So I do love Mike Evans again. Mike Evans, Baker Mayfield, Bijan, Bucs D, Chris Godwin, Sterling Shepard. So little pass game dominant here. Only one player from the Falcons, which I do like in general. But again, Bijan being that bring back. He's going to be the bring back for a lot of these 5-1 Bills to Tampa Bay. This one's a Tampa Bay 4-2, which I think feels like a decent middle ground. Evans with Baker. So Baker making the lineup because Evans is making it. Bijan, again, he gets in everywhere. Bucs D, Rashad White, Algier. Getting a lot more defenses than kickers here. So I don't know if that means the Sims think that the kickers are going to be overowned. But I like the kickers more because I think both teams move the ball decently. If I had to guess, I think they stall out a little bit. At the very least, I expect Atlanta to stall out. Anyway, these are the kind of the core builds here. I'm trying to think if there's any other captains I should show you guys. Yeah, we've looked at pretty much everybody. I need to look at Algier. All right, let's hand build it out, guys. Saw a tweet that says Bijan is one of the most overrated players in fantasy football. Can't stop thinking about it. He's been overdrafted because he got the good capital coming in, and then this year he was overdrafted because people thought he'd be Kyren Williams. I can tell you, though, like he really does not have a Kyren Williams workload, and I think that's been pretty obvious this entire time period so far. So I don't know. Like I don't get why the projections are so high on him. Like that's the part that I kind of struggle to grasp. Like he's getting good touches relative to this offense where he's getting almost 18 a game. Nobody else is getting more than 7.5. It's like I get why he would theoretically get a good projection, but it's not like he's doing a lot with the ball. It's not like he's getting red zone work that reliably. So I'd be okay fading Bijan in some builds tonight, and honestly in a decent amount of builds. I'm pretty comfortable with that as a concept. Agrees that coaching regime switched and he's still losing touches to Algier. Maybe Algier is good and Bijan's a tad overrated. I think at least the first part of that's true. I mean, I think Bijan's fine. It's just like he's probably a player that needs to be getting you like 25 touches a game. Like Bijan, I'll say, you guys know how I feel about Saquon. I think Saquon's mostly when he gets the volume and things are blocked well for him, he's going to do well. When he doesn't get that, it's going to be a little bit tougher for him. Though he's shown a little bit more, I think, than in the past this year so far in Philly, maybe because there's just better players around him. But I think Bijan to me is like kind of Barkley-ish, where like, yeah, he's going to project well, but people are always a little too excited to play him. And Algier has been good. Like if you guys remember, Algier, his rookie year was one of my biggest best ball stands, probably my best play that season, taking that volume. I think he's a talented player. It's just like he's clearly not the first round back they took. But I think as you go on here and as Bijan gets further removed from being that that number one kind of pick for the team, maybe you see Algier coming more. It started to go that way last week, but Bijan was banged up, so I think that's the logic for that. All right, Evans, I think, as captain is going to be my move here. Got enough for Rashad White at captain that I don't feel like that's really an edge today. It was Bijan just the RB version of his tight end teammate. That's a fun one. He didn't have the great rookie year. Like Pitts had a legendary rookie year, so he's got that going for him. You know, Bijan had an okay one with some big spike games, but wasn't really reliable. I think people wanted Bijan to come in and be Christian McCaffrey. And the reality is, like, there aren't a lot of guys that become Christian McCaffrey. And the guy who last year, the workload of Christian McCaffrey was Kyron Williams. People weren't drafting him like McCaffrey. So I think it's really just it. People keep chasing that CMC archetype, and Bijan fits it, and that's not it. Anyway, so we got Evans at captain. I think I'm sticking with what I thought. I'm going to go with both kickers here. Not opposed to putting Baker in the mix, but I think it's possible that Baker doesn't necessarily make the lineup by throwing a ton of touchdowns. He's more likely to get in with Evans at captain, because I would think Evans probably gets their captain by catching at least one touchdown, if not two. So let's go Baker in this as well. Run game production, I think it just gets chopped up between Rashad White and Bucky. I'm pretty comfortable going to Drake London here, I think, for this build. Workload's better than Pitts. I think Pitts is a play that I'll get to a little bit tonight. Though, honestly, if Pitts hits, can he even hit enough to be a captain? Getting 3.5 targets a game. Ugh. Pitts is definitely like a good game theory play. He's not a good, like, you squint your eyes and there's just nothing there to go to Pitts and feel good about. Crap. And maybe we just do Younghoe as the only, do a 5-1 build with Younghoe Koo. And just say the Falcons get completely shut down on that side of the ball. Are they going to, I don't know if they shut anybody down. They're getting pressure 26% of the time, blitzing 35%, QB hurry 12% of the time. So okay rates. No, you know what? Let's get a Falcons receiver in here. I find it hard to believe that one Falcon doesn't make it. Mooney or London? London getting more reliable targets, 28%, 1.5 red zone targets a game compared to 0.3 for Mooney. Let's go London. I think London makes more sense if you think about how many people are going to play Ray McLeod today too. Be my guess. Going to use the slate to hedge my Evans, Godwin, fade, and best ball. That's, you know, load up on him. I think that's a reasonable play. I think they're the two best captain plays on the slate and how I view this one. All right. We got 5,600 or 5,900 left. Likely leave a little salary on the table, so Kyle Pitts would fit this build, but he's probably not the one we want to go with. I mean, Algier scoring a touchdown when there's going to be chalky Bijan everywhere. I think I can live with that. So let's sim this out. The team is Mike Evans, Younghoe Koo, Chase McLaughlin, Baker Mayfield, Drake London, and Tyler Algier. So I don't know if this has the best story to it. The projection doesn't look that good. It's 76.8. Let's see what we get. I'm rooting for Algeria as well. Is that his native land? Tyler Algier hails from Algeria. Negative 47%. Fuck you. I don't agree with that. I think the Algier projection probably kills it. What happens if we put Pitts in? I feel like it would certainly be duped more. We didn't gain much in projection. I think they just don't like Evans captain. And maybe two kickers and Evans captain is like a bridge too far for the sim. Of course, this is a single lineup simulator tool, guys, which you can see on the screen. Check it out. Stochastic leaves like $20 a month with the 15% off you get using promo code SPLASH at Stochastic. So if you're one of those people that likes to build on your phone, this is the best tool to build on your phone. If you're a laptop person, I would honestly try to get the max packages, the main Sims packages, but keep that in mind. Stochastic, 15% off, please. I don't want to back down off of Mike Evans captain. Basically, how I feel about that. We take Baker out. I feel like if I put in Bijan, the Sim's going to go like, oh, it's a great play, man. Bijan's so sick. You play your Bijan. Oh, he's so awesome. All right, we didn't play Baker in this lineup. Let's put Falcons D in. So let's sim out Mike Evans, Younghoe Koo, McLaughlin, Bijan, Drake London, Falcons D. Sims always hates my hand builds. Does that mean I suck? It means you might want to reconsider what you're playing. Generally, You want to be like directionally accurate with your sim, have a positive ROI on it. But negative ROI lineups can win. Like, you shouldn't get spooked off it entirely, but it usually doesn't reflect too well for the slate. Yeah, man, I don't know how to get this particular build to have a positive ROI, but I like Mike Evans a lot more than this fucking this tool does. I could say that. Who's going to be higher owned? I think Rachaad White's higher owned. Let's go Bucky. 48.5 left. Let's take Sterling Shepard. You like him enough. 8K left. I don't think Bucky and Rachaad White can make a lineup with Mike Evans at captain. Let's just go. Let's go Younghoe Koo again. Didn't gain much in projection. I think it's going to be a negative ROI too. If it is, I give up, and I'll give you my 3 takeaways. But I'd like to try to get one positive ROI lineup out here with the hand build. But frankly, I think the plays that I like the most in the slate seem to not be positive ROIs according to Sim. It's getting worse. This one never wins. You're telling me in a world where this is getting simmed 10,000 times theoretically, you're telling me it never wins? I find it hard to believe there's anything that never wins. This one doesn't fucking win. Sim appears to be ignoring that Baker gave Evans 14 targets in week 4. I guess. I mean, I think it's mostly that his salary is too high at captain to make things look better. But anyway, this is my final team here. Look, I've tried. I like all these ones I hand built. You guys might not. This one's probably the weakest out of them, I guess. But Mike Evans, Bucky Irving, Sterling Shepard, Bijan, Drake London, Younghoe Koo. So I think fading Godwin with Godwin's box score results will be tough to do. But I think it's the play you make if you take Evans at captain. Besides that, I mean, look, I think it's most likely Godwin makes a lineup. Evans at captain with Godwin feels a little bit tight. But these are the builds, man. This is one of the least fun builds I gotta say I've seen so far. We still got 3 takeaways to be unique. So number 1, it seems like the Sims, or the optimizer rather, the pure math of the projections is going to drive people to more Falcons. So I would say if you're going to play 4-2 Bucs, 5-1 Bucs, you're getting off the beaten path. So right away, when you can identify a structure that's not going to be played quite as much, you should be playing more of it. So Bucs dominant builds, I think they can win this game outright. I think they can win this game, and I wouldn't say boat race them, but I think they can win this game handily too if things go really well. So I think just playing Bucs dominant builds, playing ones where the pass game goes off, I think are most appealing to me. The fact that Atlanta's a plus CPA defense now through a month. Bucs are a good offense too. They've been pretty efficient overall. They can hit a ceiling here, I think, against Atlanta. So that's the first thing, and I think the most important one. Number 2 for me would be, like, I think you should play more kickers. I think both teams move the ball. I think they get on the other side of the field enough. And I don't feel like Younghoe Koo and Chase McLaughlin were well represented by the Sims, by the projections and all that. Could be some of the salary for these guys, I guess. Let me just take a quick look. Younghoe Koo, 5,400. McLaughlin, 5K. So I would guess that's why. But I don't think they pick up as much ownership as like Justin Tucker does on the slate. So I don't know. I think play more kickers. Yeah, number 2, play more kickers. Play more kickers, absorb the price on them, because like the guys underneath them, there's not like a lot of great plays under 5K. You're talking defenses. You're talking Tyler Algier. You're talking Cade Otton, Ray McLeod. That's basically it. Number 3 would be in this one, maybe the projections update, and you have to keep an eye on it with Stochastic. Again, 15% off, promo code SPLASH at Stochastic. Link in the description as well. If Sterling Shepard's not chalk, I think that he's your way to get unique. I mean, he's going to immediately absorb the workload that both Trey Palmer and McMillan leave behind. He's a way to get low owned with Evans at captain. Can Evans, Godwin, and Shepard hit? I think that can all hit in a Baker captain build. But I think Sterling Shepard, as long as like he doesn't get too big of a projection boost, it becomes a chalk here, which you're going to have to check for yourself on Stochastic or watch the videos that go on later today. But I think playing Sterling Shepard right now looks like a good play, but the projection for Stochastic still have Trey Palmer, and I still have Jalen McMillan in, and those guys are not going to be playing today. But I think that's it for the slate. It's a weird slate, guys. Normally I like to be a little more, takey. I will say again, pass game for Tampa Bay, I think does well. Atlanta, I expect to be able to run the ball a little bit, but not as much as what Bijan's going to be played at. I don't know. I think this would be a better game than it seems. The low total kind of spooks me a little bit, but I think it'll be a decent game tonight. So I'd personally play more offense than not. But guys, please do check out Stochastic, 15% off the promo code SPLASH. The solver, link in the description as well. You don't get any money off, but it does support the show. Underdog, of course, you get a free pick'em and you get $1,000 in bonus cash. Promo code SPLASH. If for some reason you're not on there, you're just here for a season-long DFS, you're here for, or whatever, in-season DFS, and you didn't play with us during basketball season, go check out Underdog. Of course, premier platform. It's not Underdog Fantasy anymore. It's just Underdog now. So check it out. Promo code SPLASH, $1,000 in bonus cash. Link in the description as well. Shout out to all the folks who've joined the channel. So this sucks. I've mentioned this before. YouTube doesn't let me export members anymore. It's been down for like 2 weeks now. I don't know why. So I can't update the thank you sheet, but thank you to all the fine folks. Thank you to the Squirt Squad for supporting the show, joining down below for $4.99. Of course, you get a VIP Discord, you get videos from me, including tomorrow where I'll be doing my full slate breakdown and then going game by game for the premium members only. Looking at all the data, of course, on stream here on screen. So check that out and you get my data sheet as well by joining down below for $4.99. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at SplashPlayPod. And of course, gamble responsibly, even though it's always money time here. I'll be back tomorrow, guys. So make sure to tune in then. No Sunday show for me because I'll be at a wedding, hungover, doing a brunch thing. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Enjoy your days. And for this slate, really, good luck. Bye-bye. See you soon.